What's going on, everyone? This is DerekJ Speaks, and today we are talking AEW Full Gear 2021 live from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A show that gave us the culmination of a 2-year story arc with one Hangman Adam Page finally winning the AEW World Heavyweight Championship in the main event against Kenny Omega. A beautiful moment that many people, myself included, have been waiting to see for a very long time. We've been along this ride with Hangman, the ups and downs of this character and this story that they have been telling for a very long time and have been telling very well. There was a while there, of course, with the pandemic where the fans were not a part of the show and therefore were not a part of the story being told. But that love and support for Hangman Page did not wane. It did not dissipate. It remained consistent, and the people were just dying to see this match and this moment. People have been calling it for 2 years. People have been calling it for a year, since last year's Full Gear, where Kenny Omega beat Hangman Page in the finals of the World Title Eliminator Tournament that catapulted Kenny Omega to beating Jon Moxley to win the World Heavyweight Championship. So this is a story that has been told since day one. And we finally got the big payoff here, and it was just a great moment. A great moment on a show full of several great moments and great matches up and down the card. It is very difficult to recollect and go back on this show and think, what was the best match? What were the best matches? Because up and down, you had some fantastic matches, all of varying degrees. You had some just great overall wrestling matches, like the opener with MJF and Darby Allin. You had some stiff brawling between Miro and Bryan Danielson. You had just an outright fight between CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. You had the craziness and mayhem that we saw in that Falls Count Anywhere match, and some of the other matches that may not have been great were still good in their own right. We had a pretty good women's championship match. The Minneapolis street fight was fine for what it was. The tag team championship match, up and down the card, you had some really great, strong action from everyone involved. So hats off to everyone. And let's not waste any more time. Let's go straight through this entire show, start to finish, and recap all the big events that happened. So, starting off things, we have the buy-in, the pre-show, basically. We got a tag team match with Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter taking on Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. Of course, all four of these women are involved in the ongoing TBS Championship Tournament. I believe Hayter and Rosa are matched up, and Nyla Rose and Shida are matched up to eventually collide later on in the tournament. So this was just a standard tag team match. Nothing overly special, just perfectly fit right where it was, exactly where it was placed on the pre-show. We saw Nyla get Shida up for the powerbomb, but Shida countered it and turned it into the jackknife roll-up to get the win for her team. So the babyfaces win, Shida and Thunder Rosa pick up the victory, and that leads us into the main card. And the opening match was Darby Allin versus MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Let me tell you about this match here. This was, even going back on it now, looking at all the matches that we got on this show, and it's hard because it's either this one or the Eddie Kingston CM Punk match, but I might have to give the slight edge to this one. This was a tremendous opener, and it's fitting because, speaking earlier, last year's Full Gear show opened with Hangman and Omega in the World Title Eliminator Finals. That was a tremendous match, one of the best matches of the entire night, and that opened the show. Here on this night, the opening match, once again, kill it. Great opener between MJF and Darby Allin. Two of the four pillars of this company, as MJF put it in a promo a few months ago. And if these are two of the guys who are leading the ship and will be the future of this company, then the future of this company is damn well in good hands, because these two went out there and put on an instant classic in one of the best matches of either man's career so far in AEW, specifically MJF, who was someone who we don't see very often in the ring on television. So to see him go out there and put on a hell of a performance like he did here, you know what to expect from Darby. He's a crazy man, but we didn't get a whole lot of crazy theatrics and wild stunts from him in this match. A lot of just straight wrestling, and newsflash, he can do that really well too. So I thought these guys meshed very well together and put on a very, very strong opener. We see both men go to the outside. MJF hits a huge lariat on Darby. Then he tosses him back in the ring. He looks over to the crowd and starts taunting someone, calls somebody a fat guy or whatever. And then we see Darby just launch right through the ropes like a missile, hit a dive right onto MJF. So MJF, he's back in the ring. He gets laid out on the ring apron. You see Darby go up top. He comes crashing down, going for the coffin drop, but no one's home. MJF rolls out of the way, and Darby hits nothing but the ring apron, which of course we know is the hardest part of the ring. So for the next few minutes of the match, MJF was working over Darby's back, hit a bunch of back breakers, including one that was so devastating that it injured MJF's knee. So MJF started to sell a knee injury for the duration of the match in his own right. We see both men go up top. MJF has Darby in position for a tombstone. Looks like he's going to hit him with the tombstone pile driver from the top rope, but Darby ends up reversing that into the reverse stunner. Darby comes bouncing off the ropes. He tries to go for a Hurricane Rana, but then MJF catches him in midair, catches him with a powerbomb right onto his knee, his injured knee. So as Darby goes down, so too does MJF, selling the knee injury even further. Darby eventually gets back up, goes for the code red. MJF catches him mid-move and hits him with another powerbomb, but this one had a very ugly landing for poor Darby, whose body was just going through the ringer in this match. The guy's a trooper for sure. Then finally, MJF does hit that tombstone pile driver, but he does so on the ring apron. And the way it looked, just planting Darby right on the apron, head and neck just folded up, looked ugly, looked brutal, but it also looked very effective and cool. So we get MJF hitting the tombstone. Darby rolls down. He's outside the ring. MJF is back in, willing to take the countout victory. But then right at the very last second, Darby beats the 10 count and makes it back in the ring just by the skin of his teeth, basically. So we see this sequence where both men are countering each other with different cradles. We see MJF try to cradle Darby. We see Darby try to cradle MJF. Referee Bryce Remsburg, he is down hitting the mat for each one of them. So props to Remsburg as well. He hung in there with both men. And that was just a crazy back and forth sequence between the two of them that eventually led to Darby finally hitting the code red, only good for a 2 count, and it broke out into an applause, a standing ovation from the crowd, showing their respects to these two guys, giving it their absolute all. Because even by this point in the match, it was already a great match. They could have ended it at any point here, and it would have been a great match. But then they continued on for a few more minutes to just solidify it even more. We see Darby go up top again, attempting the coffin drop. Excuse me, the coffin drop, say that right. And MJF, being the smart individual that he is, he rolls to the outside, but he does so and he lays himself out. So he's laid out on the outside. And Darby, like we say already, he's a crazy man. He's still up top. He just repositions himself and hits the coffin drop down onto the outside, right onto MJF. Sparked a holy shit chant from the crowd, which is understandable. So back in the ring, Darby goes up top, tempting fate here. He comes off, goes for yet another coffin drop, but this time MJF gets the knees up to block it. But again, MJF is selling the knee injury, so that does just as much damage to him as it does to Darby. Then we see the crowd start to react to the entrance way, and out comes Shawn Spears with a steel chair and Wardlow coming down to the ring, only to be followed up by Sting with a baseball bat, takes out both men, runs them right back to where they came from. Meanwhile, in the ring, MJF goes to the outside. He grabs Darby's skateboard, the same skateboard that Darby rode to the ring on during his entrance. He gets the skateboard and he rolls it right over to Darby. Is kind of baiting him to hit him with it, unleash on him, and just clobber him with the skateboard. Looks like Darby is contemplating it for a second, but he thinks better of it, and he hands it off to the referee, and the referee goes to put it back on the outside. So the referee has his back turned. Meanwhile, MJF reaches into his trunks, pulls out the Dynamite Dozen diamond ring, puts on the ring, cold cocks Darby, knocks him down, and just as he promised on TV a few weeks ago, MJF with a side headlock takeover takes down Darby and gets the 1-2-3. Just like the asshole douchebag that he is, he lived up to his word and he beat Darby with the side headlock takeover. My words don't do it justice. This match was amazing. If you didn't see this show, first of all, what's wrong with you? Second of all, if there's anything to see on this show, it is absolutely 100% this match. This was an incredible match, already one of the best matches of the entire year, which is saying something because we have a lot of heavy hitters for that spot, but one of the best openers to a pay-per-view in a long time. And I said it already, this is easily the best match MJF has had in his career, at least in AEW. And I don't know if I would go that far with Darby, maybe, but this was just a killer performance from both guys, and the right man went over, especially considering who won in that main event. It makes sense to keep building up MJF, giving him these big wins, because now we look even further into the future. We've been looking forward to the future with Hangman for a long time, each step of the way, and now Hangman has reached his spot, so now we look to someone like MJF, and I will get more into that towards the end when we're talking about that main event. But yes, excellent work here from Darby and from MJF. Up next, we get the AEW Tag Team Championships on the line. FTR challenging the Lucha Bros, that being FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler taking on the Lucha Bros, Pentagon, El Zero Miedo, Pentagon Jr., whatever you want to call him, just Pentagon, and of course, Rey Fenix. This was a tag team match that involved Rey Fenix, so you can take a wild guess some of the crazy, batshit insane moves that took place in this match. It was craziness all from him. Pentagon hit some crazy stuff too, and of course, Dax and Cash, always great mat technicians. Great stuff from both teams in this match. We saw Tully Blanchard, who was of course in the corner of FTR. He tried to interfere at one point, and That provided enough distraction to get Pentagon down. Dax Harwood goes for the Three Amigos. Of course, this being the anniversary of the death of Eddie Guerrero. So we saw a lot of tributes done for him all throughout the night. This one, we had Dax kind of mocking him, going for the Three Amigos. And then Pentagon blocked the last one. Then he hit his own Three Amigos and successfully completed all three of them. And it's busted out a big Eddie chant, which is always great to hear. Really miss Eddie Guerrero. That's still one wrestling death that still hits very hard. Still one of the best of all time and one of my all-time favorites. So always good to hear the fans pay their respects to Eddie Guerrero. We see Phoenix also pay his respects by hitting a frog splash. Also not the last time we saw a frog splash on this show. So Phoenix hits the frog splash, only good for a 2 count, and it was so good and it was so close that it even sparked JR on commentary to shout out a goddamn, which also was not the last time JR shouted that out tonight. He was a little shaky at certain points and in certain matches, especially the match that came after this one, but for the most part, JR was pretty good, as were all the commentators. They were all in their A game tonight, so hats off to all three of them, that being Excalibur and Tony Schiavone, all in addition to Jim Ross. So we see an assisted pile driver to Phoenix, gets him down, only good for a 2 count. And then both members of FTR go under the ring and they each put on lucha masks. Now, we saw them with the lucha masks a few weeks ago on Dynamite. That's how they were able to win the AAA Tag Team Championships from Phoenix and Pentagon by tricking them, posing as luchadors. So we see them here again putting on masks, and we see Cash Wheeler in the ring. He, at this point in the match, was the illegal man. The legal man in the ring was supposed to be Dax Harwood. Cash was the illegal man, but they're trying to pull some cheating shenanigans here. So he gets in the ring, tries to roll up, I believe, Phoenix. Usually the Pentagon or Phoenix, I don't recall immediately. But he was trying to get a roll up, had his feet on the ropes. The referee pointed it out. But they beat down Cash and got him up for the Fear Factor and got the pin on Cash Wheeler. But of course, we know Cash Wheeler was the illegal man. So as soon as that happened, you could see it coming, and instantly you know this most likely will set up a rematch somewhere down the line, because even though they were trying to use it to their advantage and cheat, they still lost, and the illegal man was pinned to finish off this match. So FTR has a legitimate gripe that they were screwed over, and obviously this will lead to some type of rematch, maybe a rematch where both championships are on the line, both the AEW tag team titles and the AAA heavyweight tag team titles, in some kind of winner-take-all type of match, either on Dynamite, Rampage, or some big show down the line. If they do another big show in December, or maybe that first big show on TBS in January. At some point in the future, you know there's going to be a rematch between these two teams, which I do not mind, because I thought this was a great match. Not the best match, not one of the best matches of the night, but it was still a very strong tag team match. You have the Lucha Bros, you have FTR, you know what you're going to get, and that's a really good thing. Up next, we got the finals of the World Title Eliminator Tournament. We had Bryan Danielson versus Miro. This was a match that obviously was not going to be the match on this show as of a few weeks ago, but we all know the situation with Jon Moxley, and thoughts and prayers are with him right now as he is getting himself healthier and better. So always respect to him. But in his place, we got Miro advancing to the finals and going up against Bryan Danielson, who has been on a tear these last few months ever since debuting in AEW. Just banger after banger match with all these different people, whether it be Kenny Omega, whether it be Nick Jackson, even Dustin Rhodes, Anthony Bowens of the Acclaimed, So many different matches, so many different opponents, so many different great moments for Bryan Danielson to showcase his skills. All of his matches ending in different unique ways, different submissions, winning with the label lock, winning with the cattle mutilation, different forms, different ways of winning his matches, and it has made watching Danielson all that much more enjoyable. So you go into this show and you get Danielson and you get Miro and you're expecting a pretty stiff war, and that's exactly what we got. We got a good few minutes of Miro beating the absolute dog shit out of Bryan Danielson. As most Bryan Danielson matches in AEW have showed us, Danielson can get his ass kicked pretty well, and he can sell pretty well too. And someone like Miro, that's a good person to sell for. So Miro was punishing Danielson all throughout this entire match. Danielson had some hope spots, got some kicks in, and good things like that. But for the most part, Miro remained in control to the point where he was going for his submission, game over. But Danielson managed to roll over and escape it and managed to lock in his own submission, the label lock. He was locking it in, cinching it in, gearing back on it, only for Miro to power out of it. We had Miro pounding down on Danielson, but then Danielson caught him in the triangle choke. Looked like he was about to choke out Miro, but again, Miro escaped, this time by gouging out Danielson's eyes, or at least attempting to gouge out his eyes. Not literally, just he attempted to. We see Danielson back up, we see Miro back up, and Danielson goes for kicks to Miro's side, and Miro is just egging him on, daring him to continue to kick him, and every time he would, Miro would no-sell it, just stand there, just eating all these kicks, completely no effect, and then Miro would throw in a kick of his own, and it would knock Danielson down, and Danielson would will himself to get back up. This was going on for a little bit. Eventually, Miro kicked him, and that was it for Danielson. So he gets Danielson up on the top turnbuckle, going for some big final blow to him, but then Danielson manages to scurry him away, hits a tornado DDT, plants Miro right in the middle of the ring. They've already established that one of Miro's weaknesses is his head and neck. So you hit him with a DDT or plant him on his head and neck in some way, that is Miro's biggest weakness. So hits him with the tornado DDT, locks in the guillotine, and Miro has no choice but to pass out. He didn't tap, but he did pass out, and he was done for, and Bryan Danielson got the victory. This one shocked me. I was not expecting Danielson to win. I was not expecting him to win going into this show, regardless of who his opponent was. When it was originally believed to be Moxley as his opponent, I did not think Danielson was going to win that, and I thought for sure Miro was going to get the victory here. But a really good brawl, very stiff, very uncomfortable at times, but really good. Danielson gets the victory. And if you could see my Twitter timeline, you could see up and down so many people worried and concerned, like, oh no, this means Hangman's not going to win, or I'm doubting the outcome of the main event. And come on, you guys, you got to know better than that. This was designed to get that reaction out of you, to get that worry, to get that doubt, to get that uncertainty of what the main event was going to be. As shocked as I was to see Danielson win here, I figured, okay, well, that means Hangman's going to win the main event, and now his first title defense is going to be against Bryan Danielson, arguably one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. He has yet to be beaten since coming into AEW. What a coup, what a big deal for Hangman Page in his first title defense on television to be against someone of the caliber of Bryan Danielson, getting a big victory over someone as big a name as Danielson, and being the first man in AEW to pin Bryan Danielson's shoulders to the mat. Gonna be a big moment for Hangman later on down the line. Have no idea when we're gonna get that match, but when we do, no doubt it's going to be a hell of a contest as well. So, good stuff here. Up next, just chugging right along. That was one thing about this show. Some might look at it as a positive, others might look at it as a negative. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, just rapid fire action, just match after match after match. No real room for a breather, no real come down match, no slower matches. We eventually got those, but for this first part of the show, it was just nonstop, and it went right into this next match, the Falls Count Anywhere match. The Trios Falls Count Anywhere match with a team of the Super Clique, the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, and Adam Cole taking on Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, and Christian Cage. I don't even know how you can review this match properly. I took notes. I took a bunch of notes. I look at them and I'm like, I don't know how this can accurately describe what insanity this match was. But it was fun to watch. These 6 guys, we've seen them in a regular 6-man tag team match on television in the past, and that also was craziness. But now you put them in a match like this where there's stipulation, Falls Count Anywhere. They can go all over the ring, all over the arena, basically, throw in a bunch of different weapons, and chaos ensues. And that's exactly what we got here. So I'll attempt to recap this the best I can. First of all, the Super Clique came out in pink and black attire, so paying respect to Bret Hart, which was pretty cool. Matt Jackson went above and beyond everyone else by dyeing his beard a pinkish purple color, which Tony Schiavone on commentary was just completely disgusted by, which I found funny. The babyfaces came out, they're wearing jeans and street clothes, they're ready for a fight, which I liked. I thought that was a nice touch. And we were underway with this crazy brawl here. A lot of crazy stuff in the beginning, but to me, things started to really pick up for me when we see Matt tossed Jungle Boy over and over top rope. Meanwhile, Adam Cole was standing on the apron, so when Matt tosses Jungle Boy over the top rope, Jungle Boy manages to hit a Hurricane Rana on Adam Cole and throws him off of the apron, and Cole crashes down through a table on the floor. And then meanwhile on the other side, Matt Jackson goes up top, hits a diving elbow drop also onto the floor onto Luchasaurus, who was laid out on a table. So craziness already right there. 2 big table spots, one after another. We see a bunch of the guys fighting into the crowd. We see Nick Jackson out there, Brandon Cutler, who was out there ringside, and I believe Michael Nakazawa. I believe all 3 of those guys were out there fighting with Christian. So the 3 of them are on the lower part of the crowd floor, and we see Christian go up top onto the top of the concourse. And from the top there, he comes crashing down with a big dive, takes out all the heels. We see back in the ring, everyone kind of gathers around ringside again, and then in the ring, we get the thumbtacks. So the thumbtacks come out, only a little bit though, not a crazy amount of them, just enough to be sickening. The Young Bucks get a scoop of thumbtacks, put them in Jungle Boy's mouth. Adam Cole locks in the Steiner recliner, wrenching back on Jungle Boy. Poor guy having these tacks in his mouth. Of course, the Bucks do the double kiss to the cheek of Adam Cole, who by this point is bleeding. So Jungle Boy's in position. Young Bucks double super kick. Down goes Jungle Boy. We see a ladder brought into the ring that gets propped up on the side of the ring apron, or the turnbuckle, the corner of the ring, I should say. And we see Luchasaurus hit a choke slam onto Nick Jackson, onto the ladder. We see Matt break up the cover, because Luchasaurus goes for the cover on Nick Jackson. Matt broke up the cover by using a trash can and just jamming it right in Luchasaurus's face, which made a pretty brutal sound. So, thought that was very interesting. Then we see Matt run away from Luchasaurus. He's running up the entrance ramp. He is running as far away from this dinosaur as he possibly can. And out of nowhere, Jungle Boy swoops in, sweeps the leg, takes him down, locks in the snare trap. We see Adam Cole try to break that up. He breaks that down, and then now everyone is up on the rampway. Everyone is up near the stage. All kinds of craziness ensues up here. We see Cole hit the Panama Sunrise on Jungle Boy. He was up on one of the stage design props, hits the Panama Sunrise onto Jungle Boy, takes down Jungle Boy. Then he pulls out a gift for himself and the Young Bucks, that being spiked knee pads. Of course, the Young Bucks hit the BTE trigger. Adam Cole hits what was once called the last shot, now is called the boom. So they all have knee strikes, so it makes sense for them to have spiked knee pads here. They put the knee pads on. They hit a three-way BTE trigger on Luchasaurus, go for the cover, and Jungle Boy breaks it up. Jungle Boy eventually hits a German suplex on Nick Jackson, and then Nick kind of slumps off the ramp and lands down on the floor. On the other side, Christian gives a big spear to Matt Jackson on the rampway. Luchasaurus choke slams Adam Cole off the ramp, onto the floor, onto the pile of guys who were down there. And with Matt Jackson laid out, Christian pulls out a steel chair, gets the steel chair, buries Matt's face into it. He's about to set up for the concerto. He hit this move on Adam Cole a few weeks ago on television. So he's going for the concerto, but then Jungle Boy stops him, tells him, I got this. He gets the steel chair, connects with the concerto, gets the 1, 2, 3, and Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage pick up the victory. And as many people already pointed out on Twitter, I will just reiterate it. Jungle Boy in this match with this finish graduated to Jungle Man. So, crazy recap of a crazy match. But I thought it was really enjoyable, and Jungle Boy was definitely the star of this match. He was presented and featured as the big star of this match. That's why many people have said he graduated to Jungle Man, because he really grew into himself, gave himself a harder edge, and showed that he can be just as tough as anyone else in this match. So hats off to everyone who took the punishment and abuse that they did in this match. It was very enjoyable. Up next, I would consider this one of the first come-down matches of the night. It was just a regular tag team match. Cody Rhodes and Pac taking on the team of Andrade El Idolo and Malachi Black. Of course, there's history with all four guys in this match. You got a lot of top-tier guys in this match, but when you compare this against a lot of the other matches on this show, it does not come off as one of the more important matches. And this match, coming off of the previous 3 or 4 banger matches that we got, it made sense for the crowd to die down just a little bit. But they didn't die down too much, because they were very much so into this match. They were into Pac because they love him. Andrade got a good reaction. Malachi Black, they have been loving Malachi Black since he came in, which I have too. I dig the presentation of Malachi Black. And as for Cody, well, poor Cody is still hearing the boo birds wherever he goes. I don't know what it is. I don't know why they turned on him. I don't know exactly what he did, but he's still getting booed. The fans still do not like Cody Rhodes right now, which is funny for the most part, but I just don't understand where all the hate comes from. But every time he would tag into the match, the fans would boo. He had a hot tag spot at one point later down the stretch in this match. The fans booed. They did not want to have anything to do with Cody Rhodes in this match. But as for a match itself, it was fine. They teased miscommunication with the different teams. You know, Cody tagging himself in and slapping Pac on the back and tagging himself in, face off between the two of them. Malachi and Andrade were doing the same thing. There was nothing really overly special about this match. One of the biggest highlights of this match was Jose, the assistant for Andrade. He was trying to antagonize Arn Anderson, which we have already learned you don't do that. And so he felt that wrath, and Arn chased him off. In the end, Pac hits the Black Arrow on Andrade to get the win for his team. So Cody and Pac pick up the victory. After the match, Cash Wheeler comes down and attacks Pac. So when Andrade paid for the services of FTR all those weeks ago with the Pinnacle as basically hired guns, he paid them off. They're still paying dividends for him. And after this past week on Dynamite, we got Dax Harwood versus Pac. I guess it only makes sense for us to eventually get Cash Wheeler versus Pac. So basic tag team match, nothing overly special, and the outcome was what it was. Up next, Britt Baker defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Ty Conti. A big coming out party here for Ty Conti. This was a spotlight showcase for her to prove that she belongs in this top spot in a championship match on pay-per-view. And I think if you were testing her to see if she could hang and you were seeing if she could check all the boxes, I think she did that. I think she definitely proved herself in this match, and she hung in there with Britt. Britt, of course, always brings it and is very good in the ring and always stays true to her character in the ring. And I thought these two meshed very well together. This match went on a little bit longer than I thought it would. I thought it'd be a little bit shorter, but I thought for what they were doing, I liked it. There were some unnecessary spots in this match. At one point, Ty Conti hit a gotch pile driver and Britt Baker kicked out of it. I don't think this match needed a gotch style pile driver, but it was there. I'm not a big fan of seeing people kick out of the pile driver so loosely all throughout the show, but it is what it is. We saw Ty hit a lot of her big moves, the Ty KO, the DD Ty. Britt Baker kicked out of all of them. At one point, the referee was distracted and Jamie Hayter attacked Ty Conti, and Britt hit a curb stomp on Ty on the steel steps, got her back in the ring, hit another stomp in the ring, went for the lockjaw, but then Ty countered that into a roll-up, almost got the win, but was not good enough. Then we see Britt Baker attempt to go for the lockjaw. It got countered into a roll-up, but then Britt countered that into her own roll-up and got the victory. So Britt Baker retained the Women's Championship. I don't think the outcome was really in doubt. This was one of the matches where the crowd started to die down a little bit. They were still cheering for Britt, and they were still really behind Ty, but I don't think anyone really bought into the idea that she was going to beat Britt Baker for that championship. I think that spot is reserved for someone else, and I think a lot of people know that. And so there was not a whole lot of drama in this one, although they did get you with a few hope spots in there and a few close near falls for Ty Conti. But overall, this was just mainly designed to be a good showcase for her, and I thought she passed with flying colors. So this is not the last time we will see her get a championship match, I am sure, but it will just probably be a while before we see it again. Up next was one of the matches that I was looking forward to the most on this show, and it was one of the matches that was added the latest to this show, that being CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. You gave them live microphones a few weeks ago on Rampage, let them go out there and do what they do best, and that is talk your ass into the seats, into buying this show. I was already going to buy this show, but they definitely brought it home with that incredible promo. And you get this match, which was very short. It did not last that long. It was not this technical masterpiece. It was not this great wrestling match. It was a fight between two guys who do not like each other. There was no flashiness. There was no flair. Both men just walked out to the ring. Eddie Kingston made his entrance, just walked straight to the ring, game face, very serious. CM Punk did the same thing. No, it's clobbering time, no stage dives, no playing to the crowd. Music hit, Punk walked out, straight to the ring. Both men are just ready to kill each other. And the referee is trying to keep them separated, but before the bell even rang, Kingston hits his spinning back fist on Punk, knocks Punk down, and is taunting Punk. He's smiling, he's laughing, he's going crazy, and Punk is getting back up. He flips off Eddie Kingston, and we got to see that a few times this match. Many times throughout this entire match, both men were just flipping each other off, just saying fuck you to each other, which I thought was hilarious. But then we proceeded to get a fight. Eddie Kingston wins this match saying he does not care about beating CM Punk. All he wants to do is beat him up, and beat him up he did. Early on in the match, I don't know the exact move where it happened. I don't know if Punk collided with the steel steps or what happened, but Punk came up bloodied, like seriously bloodied. Crimson mask face bloody, getting into his eyes and all of that, which made for a good visual, but it looked pretty bad. Punk at one point, one of the funniest parts of this match, he teased hitting Eddie Kingston with a 5-knuckle shuffle. Of course, that being one of the main moves of John Cena, kind of alluding to an observation that many fans made about the build-up to this match, the very short, brief build-up to this match, that being the roles were kind of reversed for CM Punk. All those years ago in the feud with John Cena, where Punk was the underdog and Cena was kind of the big established guy looking down on him, you have here the roles being kind of reversed, where Punk himself is the top established guy and Eddie Kingston is the underdog, fighting from underneath, fighting to get respect, feels looked down on by Punk. So, to play more into that story, Punk was setting up for the 5-knuckle shuffle, but when he went down to do the you can't see me, Eddie Kingston, what else, met him with more middle fingers, and they just flipped off each other even more. Punk started to pound on Eddie Kingston, and no 5-knuckle shuffle tonight. Maybe if we get a rematch, we'll see it there, but nothing tonight. One of the biggest observations of this match is that this was CM Punk's 6th match back, and he's already getting booed. The crowd was split going into it, but at certain points, the crowd was firmly in the corner of Eddie Kingston, and so much so that they got to the point where they were booing CM Punk. And that just goes to show you Eddie Kingston is that beloved. And towards the end of the match, we saw Punk looking out to the crowd and kind of observing the reaction that he was getting. I do not think that was done on accident. They made a point to look at Punk as he was doing it, and Punk's a pro, and we can all see the writing on the wall here, so I don't think it's going to be something that's capitalized on immediately, but I think that's something where you look like further down the line that'll be addressed. Maybe you could call this the seeds being planted for an eventual turn of events later on down the line. We saw Punk hit the Three Amigos, so he paid tribute to Eddie Guerrero, and we see Eddie Kingston still fighting back, still trying to put up a good fight against Punk. He engages in a slugfest with them. They're going back and forth, hits an enziguri, and then Punk hits him with a GTS. Eddie Kingston is knocked a little ways over across the ring. Punk is down too. Then Punk gets back up. He's just giving Eddie a bunch of knee strikes. This is where he gives the look to the crowd as they're booing him. Then he gets Eddie up one more time, hits the GTS, and gets the victory. The finish wasn't really in doubt. Maybe a few people were upset that Eddie didn't get the win, but I didn't expect Eddie Kingston to get the win here. They established that in the build-up. Eddie literally said, I don't care about beating you. I don't care about winning or losing. All I want to do is beat you up. And that's what Eddie did. Punk was brutalized. He was bloody-faced. He got his ass kicked. And that's what Eddie wanted. After the match, Punk tried to extend his hand for a handshake, and Eddie, similar to the Bryan Danielson match, wanted nothing to do with it. blew that off, and left. It would be a crime if this was the last match that we saw between these two guys. Hopefully they run this back again in the future. Not counting on it, but hopefully. Before the next match, they showed the crowd, and we got an appearance by legendary wrestler Baron Von Raschke. And it was cool to see him, but at the same time you knew there's probably a good reason why they're showing him. And it made sense in this next match. The 10-man tag team Minneapolis street fight. The Inner Circle, of course, Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Santana Ortiz, and the TNT champion Sammy Guevara taking on American Top Team with the Men of the Year, Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, and UFC fighters Andre Arlovsky, Junior Del Santos, and of course Dan Lambert himself, all a part of this match. Lambert was wearing this ridiculously bright colored blue jumpsuit. It looked completely ridiculous, but that was the goal. This match was crazy and all over the place. Eventually, it started off with all the guys on the apron doing regular tags in and out, and I'm like, this match is right before the main event, and this show is already going on long. Can we not do this build up to the crate? Like, just go right into it. I don't care. Just go right into it. So all of that, we got that out of the way, and then the big craziness started to happen. Once Dan Lambert got in the ring, he tried to go after Chris Jericho, and then Chris Jericho was fighting back, and that's when the rest of American Top Team came in. That's when the rest of the Inner Circle came in, and it was just craziness from there on out. This was not as much fun as the Falls Count Anywhere match earlier, but it was still pretty good in its own right. Big props to Sammy Guevara, who was the star of this match with his big swanton bomb off of a very tall ladder, crashing down onto Scorpio Sky through a table. So, the biggest spot of the match and one of the best spots of the night. But there were crazy weapons all throughout this entire match. A lot of people were asking going in, what is a Minneapolis street fight? And we got our answer. It is a street fight where the weapons are a bunch of Minneapolis-centric items. We had hockey sticks. We had a water ski. We had a symbol, a literal physical symbol for Prince, which I'm sure my mom would have loved because she loves Prince. So Chris Jericho used that as a weapon as well. A lot of craziness. I can't really go into every single thing that happened in this match, but the more important thing is that by the end, Chris Jericho, with the kendo stick, taking down Dan Lambert, gets a stapler and strikes it right at Lambert's little American Top Teams down there. So Lambert's down. Jericho gives the homage to Eddie Guerrero, of course his close friend, goes up top, hits a pretty good looking frog splash. Not the best, but for Chris Jericho, I was not really expecting a great looking frog splash, but he hit a really good one. And he gets the 1, 2, 3, and he points up to the heavens saying that he missed Eddie Guerrero. I thought that was a very nice emotional ending to what was overall a pretty fun match. It was, cluster, mayhem, garbage stuff, but for what it was, right as a breather right before the main event, I thought it was nice. Which leads us to the main event. Well, before the main event, we had a few announcements about what's coming up on Dynamite this Wednesday. We got a big tag team match announcement. The Butcher and the Blade are taking on the team of Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii. We are going to see Tomohiro Ishii in an AEW ring beating the hell out of the Butcher and the Blade. Just doing what he does best. So, sign me up for that. Then in the arena, they made a few other match announcements, but nothing could top that. But this next one almost did. Tony Schiavone is on the stage and he introduces a new talent in AEW, that being Jay Lethal. Of course, we know the news about Ring of Honor recently. I'm not going to get into all of it right there, but Jay Lethal came out and he announced that he is all elite. He opened the forbidden door, he walked through it, and now he is officially all elite. He is in AEW, and his first order of business is to challenge Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. He laid down the challenge. Sammy came out and accepted. So now this week on Dynamite, we're going to see Jay Lethal challenge Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. No doubt going to be a great match. But speaking of great matches, that leads us to the main event for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Kenny Omega defending against Hangman Adam Page. I thought the entrance was pretty cool for Hangman. We saw him in a video package. We saw him riding a horse, kind of trotting along through these empty streets, and they flashed up to different tall buildings which showed videos of different things from Hangman's past, like him losing that championship match to Chris Jericho at All Out in 2019, him costing the Young Bucks their shot at the tag team titles last year. Different pieces of this story that have been told for the last 2 years, which I thought was a very nice touch. So, thought that was great. The crowd was absolutely hot for Hangman. They were firmly in the corner of Hangman Page. No love whatsoever for Kenny Omega, especially with Don Callis in his corner, who was playing a nuisance throughout this entire match. Constantly, Kenny Omega was getting Hangman down, throwing him out to the ring, distracting the referee long enough for Don Callis on the outside to interfere and kick at Hangman and just punch at him and just being a dick. And it was working. It was playing to the crowd. The crowd was loving it. They were, well, not loving it. They were hating it, but they were playing along with it. They were getting so frustrated that they literally chanted, "This ref sucks," or "Ref, you suck," which I thought was hilarious. So we see Hangman get a big dive through the ropes on Kenny, goes up top, hits a huge moonsault to the outside, takes out Kenny again. Both men are down. Back in the ring, Hangman has his back turned on the second rope in the corner, and then from the apron, Kenny Omega hits a springboard Liger bomb, and Hangman's landing did not look too pretty. So he crashed right down in the middle of the ring. Looked brutal. We see a bunch of snap German suplexes in the ring and one on the apron, and this all led to Kenny hitting the first of several V-triggers in this match. Both men are high up top on the top rope, and Hangman hits an avalanche blockbuster, goes for the cover, only good for a 2 count. Kenny goes to the outside again, and Hangman still in the ring, goes up top, removes one of these small little hidden cameras up on the top of the steel ring post, and to give himself a flatter surface to hit a big dive. So he gets up on the steel post, dives off onto the floor, onto Kenny Omega, big clothesline, crashes through the table. Both men are down. Back in the ring, Hangman is going for the buckshot lariat, but before he can even dive off the ropes, Kenny goes down. Then Hangman tries to go for his own V-trigger, but Kenny moves out of the way. A bit of a scurry back and forth. Eventually ends with Hangman hitting Kenny with a pop-up powerbomb. Hangman goes to the apron, comes off connecting with the buckshot lariat, but then Kenny pulls the referee in the way. Hangman collides with the referee. The ref goes down. Don Callis tries to look at this as an opportunity to interfere again, and Hangman punches his lights out. Down goes Don Callis. Omega gets the championship belt, tries to strike Hangman with it, but Hangman ducks out of the way, hits Omega with the dead eye, down goes Omega, and down to the ring running is Aubrey Edwards. Gets in the ring, goes for the cover, but only good for a 2 count. Kenny gets back up, a bunch of knee strikes on Adam Page. Tries to go for one last one, but Page blocks it, comes off the ropes, only to be met with yet another V-trigger. Hangman is down, but he starts to fire up, he starts to power up, gets back up. Omega's hitting him with a bunch of rapid kicks, a bunch of quick kicks, but then Hangman connects with a wild lariat, turns Omega inside out. Both men are down. Cut away over to the entranceway, and out comes the Young Bucks, who took a beating in that Falls Count Anywhere match earlier. They're coming down. They're limping their way down to ringside, kind of circling the ring. You don't know exactly what they're doing out there, but they're there. Hangman goes for the buckshot again, but in doing so, he gets caught with a V-trigger. Loved that spot. Was hoping we would get a spot like that in this match, and it looked just as great live as it did in my own mind. So, Hangman's down. Kenny goes for the one-winged angel, but then Hangman escapes, and he hits Kenny with his own one-winged angel. Only good for a 2 count. So we did get to see someone kick out of the one-winged angel, but we have yet to see anyone kick out of the one-winged angel when Kenny Omega hits it. I thought Hangman was going to be the first one here, but he was not. So Kenny did not hit the move. I guess that is a very important part of this story, potentially. So both men are down. Hangman gets back up. He's ready. He's feeling it. And he looks over to the Young Bucks, who at this point are basically positioned as though they are in Hangman's corner. And Hangman even looks down at Matt Jackson, who he has had the most beef with over the course of this story. Matt looks back up at Hangman, gives him the nod, which I thought was very interesting. And Hangman comes off the ropes, hits the buckshot lariat, and gets the 1, 2, 3. Hangman Adam Page is the new AEW World Champion. The crowd lost their minds. I thought it was a great moment and very good, happy moment for Hangman Adam Page, who finally wins the championship after this long story that has been told for years. All the ups and downs, all the crazy plot holes, and well, not plot holes, but plot twists that we got throughout the course of the story. It was good to get the payoff. We had a lot of different people saying that Hangman was not ready, Hangman's not the right guy. All false. The crowd, time after time, has proven that that is false. They have been behind Hangman this entire time, and they were behind him here. So, excellent stuff at the end of this match. Now, where do these guys go? As for Kenny, you gotta wonder he ain't gonna be too happy about the Young Bucks giving the nod to Hangman Page to basically finish him off. So that could lead down that path. Maybe something with Adam Cole, who is now back in cahoots with Bobby Fish. Different things to go down there. What's next for Hangman? We already know his first challenger is going to be Bryan Danielson. Down the line, feed him opponents, feed him big matches, but the big match to eventually build up to at some point next year is Hangman Adam Page versus MJF, and that is when MJF should finally become the champion. So, now that Hangman's story has basically complete, he can live out his championship run, but eventually you gotta get to MJF. So, that's the future for Hangman. So, that's it for me here. Great show, great main event, great matches up and down the card. Thank you for listening to me. I didn't say it at the beginning, but if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel, DerekJ Speaks. Follow me on Twitter at DerekJ Speaks, where I talk about AEW content every single week. I talk about WWE content whenever I feel like it. Next time I'm on here giving you guys a review, it'll be Survivor Series, which has had the absolute worst build all year, but I'll still be here to talk about the show with all of you guys. So until then, take care.